Hello, everybody. Welcome to Town Hall on what has become a sunny day. At least I think so. I can look up off the reflection of the third floor windows, and I can see that there is sun and blue sky. Some of you may be able to see the sky more directly, but it is nice to see again. Anybody have some plans for blue sky work over the weekend as we just do a little small talk?
Let's see. Well, I'm going to Costa Rica, so I don't know. That sky might be pretty blue.
Oh, that is blue sky kind of work. How long are you going to be there,
I'm
Susan?
going to be there for a week. I'm doing like a writing retreat.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I had a neighbor who was an ornithologist who did a lot of work in Costa Rica, and she
Hmm.
was just all about the hummingbirds. I mean, there are so
Oh,
many hummingbirds there you can't. I mean, like we get one kind of hummingbird, right? The ruby-throated hummingbird here, and there are like 40
oh,
there. It's just amazing. Anyway,
wow.
well,
I'm going to
Costa
be on
Rica,
the
that
search.
sounds great.
Yeah.
Can anybody compete with Costa Rica?
I certainly can. I'm shuttling children off to cello practice this weekend, so I'm just happy for any blue sky weather. That makes that easier.
Wow, cello practice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't miss that.
It's great. I get to go see all these different places and see him play the cello in them. It's
Oh,
great.
well,
It's
that's
great.
great. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. So this is travel cello, just like there's travel
I
hockey. Is
mean,
that what you're telling me?
well, they are located in all these different schools and different activities, like all across the Chicago Northwest suburbs. So yeah, we're getting a nice tour of all these places.
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
As I've gotten to know the area a little bit, like my wife and I just keep hopscotching our way from one northern pebbly beach to another.
Oh, nice.
Um, and I think that may be our hope for this weekend.
Are
So,
our beaches more
Oh,
pebbly on this side than I feel like I've been to some Michigan beaches that I didn't remember being as pebbly, but
well, so yeah, on the south, the farther south you get, it's all dunes, right? But if you
yeah.
go up near Petoskey, there are sandy beaches, but there are also pebbly beaches there where, you look for Petoskey stones. Not that there aren't Petoskey stones over here too, just, you got to find them.
Hmm.
So. Um, well, this seems like a good time for me to get us started. Welcome to Town Hall. I am excited to talk today have our panel talk about the Nexus for faculty success and the great work they do for faculty, staff, and then the implications for students. So we have Susie Calkins, our director for the Nexus. Nancy Zhao is an assistant professor in the Department of Psychology. Aubrey Penny is the academic program coordinator for the grad school, and Brian Rausch is designer of virtual and hybrid learning experiences. After my little bit of update, we'll turn to Susie and we'll work our way through some of the stuff that's happening at the Nexus, the cool work that they're doing. You'll see in my update, the written update, from Aaron's desk later on today, our excitement that Lori Anderson won the American Association of Nurse Anesthetists Program Administrator of the Year Award. And that's for the quality of that program, which of course has a long, robust, and august history, but also for its expansion in Colorado, which is a remarkable model for us, right? Looking at communities that need the benefits of academic health and an academic health university and figuring out how we can help deliver that for that community. Um, I'm working on the next step in our EVPR process. I'll be meeting with a search firm, I think next week. We're looking to get a volume discount for both the EVPR and the vice president for institutional advancement searches, which we'll be doing. But next week I will announce an interim EVPR. So you can be looking for that next week. And then just foreshadowing, the budget work continues. We're going to do a town hall on the budget process. I don't think that we've actually had a conversation or that the university's had a conversation about the nuts and bolts of how the budget gets put together. So last board meeting, we had a top-down, what do we think tuition's going to be? What do we think expenses are going to be? What do we think this is going to look like? And more or less, we get it to balance. But then you got to build a budget that actually works. And that's like, well, we have these people and they get paid this and we do this kind of work and it costs this much. And then you got to put a real budget together. So Gavin is going to come on and talk a little bit about how we do that. And so there has been guidance sent out to the major units, and we'll be talking to everybody about how that gets put together. That's pretty much the update that I have for today. Obviously, you get a couple of weeks of people being away, and things are maybe a little bit happily a little bit more quiet. But as always, I'm delighted to answer questions. It's always more fun to answer questions. So feel free to put them into the Q&A. And with that, Susie, I'm going to turn the screen over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I really appreciate that you invited us to be here today. All right, so let me first, Jonna, if I could have a sharing sent again, access.
Yeah, as we're
Thank you.
working on that, let me just tell people, like I completely screwed up the technology earlier as we were getting ready. I thought I was in the prep meeting, or I was in the prep meeting. I thought I was in this meeting, and then anyway. So we've been paddling like a duck, calm on the surface and paddling like crazy underneath to get ourselves reoriented. Anyway.
All right, good. Can we see my screen?
Yeah, it looks great,
Okay,
Susie.
perfect. Because it's like we've done this a million times, and you're like, but now we'll see how it goes.
I've never used Zoom. I don't know what you're
Right.
talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, so thank you so much for inviting us to chat about the Nexus for Faculty Success. Brian and I are going to talk a little bit about it. I'm just going to start us off, but I will just say that we were started in September of 2022, which is when I came. But there had been a lot of different types of faculty development initiatives across the university prior to the Nexus, but there wasn't yet a university-wide unit. So that's what was getting established. And so the Nexus is very much designed to advance the university mission and the strategic priorities by supporting faculty success, which in turn does support student success. And we try to build community and capacity in our faculty at all levels of their practice. And we think about it in these terms of these three pillars: leading as educators, so how they think about themselves as teachers, what they're doing in the classroom or in the clinical settings; leading as scholars, how they're thinking about the research and the scholarship that they produce, the grants that they're pursuing; and leading in place, what that means to actually have a voice at the university, and what that means in terms of shared governance. We also provide specific support, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the tailored things that we do at the program and at the school and college levels. And we do provide services and resources that are available to all faculty. I do want to say that even though, of course, we're the Nexus for Faculty Success and faculty is in our title, we very much welcome staff to participate, and they are invited to our events. We do design the programs and initiatives with faculty need in mind, such as when we think about teaching or scholarship, but we are very open to staff coming, and we have Aubrey who will talk a little bit more about she joined a few of our programs as well. I also want to just say something about the general kind of underpinning underneath the Nexus. We tend to cross our programs, whether it's about learning and teaching, whether it's about scholarship, whether it's about leadership. We try to take a developmental mindset or a developmental perspective for ourselves as well as for our participants. And we think it's really important. We have sort of this ongoing critical reflection. So we're constantly examining our approaches, our ideas, our thinking, our knowledge, but also our biases and assumptions. Like, why do we do what we're doing? And actually pausing and thinking about it critically is really crucial, and it undergirds kind of all of our programs. We also try to encourage for ourselves, again, as well as our participants, openness to new ideas and approaches. Sometimes you have things that worked really well for a really long time, or sometimes they didn't work really well for a really long time. And sometimes it's really important to just say, well, can we try something different? Can we try something new? And even if it's like, well, it hasn't worked here, or we don't do that here, try to say, well, let's try a different thing. Let's see what happens when we're open. We also strive to promote a culture around cultural humility, respect, empathy, trying to, we don't come in knowing everything. We learn together. We learn from being curious. We learn from asking respectful questions. But that's part of, that we do step back and say, we don't know everything as well as we think we might sometimes. We also try to take what we call an asset-based approach or rather than a deficit-based thinking. And this plays out in different ways, but for our faculty, it's sometimes they say, well, back in my day, this didn't happen, or students today, blah, 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 or even just, well, I know the reason they didn't do well is because X, Y, and Z. And they sometimes, and this sometimes is what we call deficit-based approaches. And we try to encourage asset-based approaches. Well, what are our students bringing? What is the prior knowledge and skills that they bring to any context that they're in? How do we understand them as human beings? And that's part of trying to help develop and cultivate an asset-based thinking. And that's across all of our programs. We also try to cultivate what we call brave spaces. So you often hear about safe spaces but it's the question is, well, who is it safe for? So brave spaces really are about individual accountability and trying to identify your learning edges and push them, not to a place where you're completely uncomfortable, but pushing them and recognizing learning is part of being a little uncomfortable sometimes, and trying to be comfortable with that discomfort, but being accountable for what we say and do. It's not enough to say like assume good intentions, but we're trying to be accountable, and that's part of a brave space. And also, we try to cultivate the sense of community. Even Erin, you mentioned this to me when we did that R&R thing, and you said, community building, faculty development can happen anywhere, and in a community. And this was just at a casual. It wasn't R&R; it was the coffee connections that we did, just chatting with people sometimes. But for us, it's really important. We say learning is not a solo endeavor. We don't learn on our own. We don't learn just by thinking things through on our own. We learn by talking with each other. We learn by engaging. We engage by thinking through new perspectives. Learning is really a process of connecting with other people, and that is really crucial. Oh yeah.
I had a great faculty colleague, my clinic buddy for years, who said that the greatest driver of faculty development was a good salad and a latte.
I can see that for sure. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you said salad because I'm a vegetarian, so I
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah.
appreciate that particularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I do think, and that's what we try to, and so the Nexus, in its name, the other part of the Nexus is the connection piece. We try to connect with units all over the university around things that they're already doing, helping them think through. But also, at the individual level, I know we're always like, hey, do you know that person over there also does that? I try to connect people at that level. But also, like, hey, that's maybe a challenge or an issue you're having in your unit. Let's see if we can talk what might be happening in your unit as well. And that may happen over a latte and a salad, but it's often just a process of connecting people together. And the other thing is we try to sort of say something about we believe in the power of yet, which is that idea that, maybe it doesn't work now, but it doesn't mean it will never work. And maybe you tried something once, maybe you tried it 3 times, it still didn't work. And sometimes it's like, okay, maybe I have to rethink this thing or rethink what my problem is or what my question is. But maybe we just didn't try it in different ways. So I'm always a power of like, okay, maybe it didn't work, but that doesn't mean forever. We can still try. And that's something we try to build in. The other thing I want to just say, I just wanted to say something about the people behind the Nexus as well. So Brian will be talking in a moment, but we're very lucky that we have Dr. Judy Patashkin, who is a professor in CMS, but also serves as our senior scholar in the Nexus. Judy does amazing work recognizing faculty. She came to us with this idea that she had with CMS, and then we built it out to the university, which is a faculty recognition program. So basically, people can fill out a form anytime and say, hey, so-and-so did this great thing for me today. And it could be mentoring, it could be service, and anybody can do it. Faculty, staff can put in this note, and then Judy sends them this personalized note. It's just great. She also works with faculty around their academic publications, manuscript development, grant proposals, helping them. And I work with her in tandem on these to help them, sort of develop these out. And of course, so 2 colleagues from AFA, Amy Hills and Patty Bender. Hey guys, if you're watching, they are really helpful in helping us make sure that our programs can run smoothly. Takes a village. Okay, and then the last thing I just wanted to say was just before I turn it to Brian, it's just something about a little bit about what we do. I mentioned some of the kind of the principles that underlie our work, but in addition, we do a lot of consultations on all kinds of things. But in addition to that, you may see our Nexus News. We have learning and teaching. We have all workshops on all different topics, but a lot of them are learning and teaching. We manage the WISH events with Dr. Lise Elliott and Christine Burgess. And we have our next one coming up on February 4th, Dr. Jane, who's going to be talking about imposter syndrome. It's going to be amazing. We have a discussion series that Brian collaborates with Jana Manson in the library, Boxer Library. And then we do other kinds of workshops and partnerships with the university, such as with the Assessment Leadership Council. We did actually some programming early on with HR around sort of leadership development. And then we have a number of specialized services in addition to the consultations. We have observations of teaching. So we do these in different places around the university. But for CMS, I work with Dr. Neil Bradbury. We partner and we give faculty feedback, again, voluntarily, that they are wanting the feedback. And then other schools have developed different peer observation models as well. We also have what we call a small group analysis, which I did do in one of Nancy's classes, so hopefully she can mention this, which is where we go into the class and collect feedback from the students at the midpoint. And they give us suggestions, what could be improved, and then we go back to the faculty member and talk to them as if we're sort of the mirror and we're mirroring what the students have said or what they want to see, what they think could help make change. Nancy can mention that if she wants. And then we also do like different retreats and things, sessions for different units around campus. And we have a couple actually much longer, substantial programs that are around different things. We had a Leading as Faculty program for 2 years. We had a Nexus Faculty Academy, which Brian's going to mention in more detail in a moment, that Nancy was in. And we have other programs around academic writing, such as the Motivated Writer. So that's just to kind of give you a broad overview. And then let's see. So then Brian is just
but can you go back to that slide for a second? I mean, one of the things I really appreciate in this slide, right? There's training in there, right? There's, how do you get better at these sorts of things, and there's mentorship in here. But there's also sponsorship, and people spend a lot of time on faculty development and mentorship, but sponsorship is actually what pushes people forward, right? Mentorship helps them with a whole bunch of what they're doing. And there's no doubt that there's good data that the more mentors you have, the more successful you will be. But often we need our mentors to push towards sponsorship, right? Advancing people's opportunities in organizations for awards, for things like that. So it's great to see all three of those in the activities of the Nexus.
Yeah, and I'll just give one more thing about, excuse me, Dr. Judy Patashkin's work. She did. I glossed over it, but she also nominated faculty and the institution for 20 different external awards, which,
That's
thank you,
huge.
Judy. It's really great. So she is a really great proponent.
And it is work,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, it's a lot of work.
It is work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure she gets, because I recognize for that, because she is really an advocate and champion for our faculty.
Yeah, I didn't mean to step on.
Oh, no, not at all. I'm just sort of trying to move through it, but I didn't mean to. Yeah. So I figured Brian will just give an example of one of our programs, and then we could then have a conversation with the colleagues we invited.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll just move this, Brian. Oh, the other direction. Here we go.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, so I'm here to talk about the Nexus Faculty Academy, which is an example of one of the programs that we've done. It's a university-wide, cohort-based, year-long faculty development and fellowship program for early career faculty and faculty that are new to RFU. It consists of 3 full-day retreats, 3 lunch and learns, which are about 1-hour sessions, small group meetings, one-on-one coaching, and we had 15 participants from 5 schools, 13 senior colleagues who served as their mentors as well. And throughout the year, participants explored their identities, attitudes, and values related to their professional work, identified their own strengths to improve, they developed a 5-year career plan, and they reflected critically on their own developmental goals. And what we can tell from the initial impact of the Nexus Faculty Academy is that the NFA enhanced faculty excellence by fostering cross-disciplinary networking and establishing a framework for long-term professional goal setting, such as grant writing or teaching. So that's a lot in one slide, but I am also going to turn it over to Dr. Zhao, who was invited to this program, and she can speak more to it.
Brian. So just I can only speak from my personal experience, so take it with a grain of salt. I've done a lot of career development programs. I'm also on a case, which just has like mentorship and career development built into it. So I'm always very passionate about being more engaged in programming and learning more about different types of opportunities for career development and enhancement. So I joined this program and was mentored by Brian Feinstein, Department of Psychology Department, and Christian Schneider, who's the chair, was very supportive and helped mentor as well. And what I think is interesting about this program is it focuses a little bit less on specific things that might have to do with your own, for instance of like as a with my grant having mentorship, it's very research focused. And so I feel like the Nexus Faculty Academy is a little bit more broad. It's this idea of like, I don't know if people have heard of metacognition, but like thinking about your thinking or being aware of your thinking processes. How do you learn? What are your strengths? What do you need to work on? And oftentimes, I think as faculty, we don't have time to think about that. And it might not be a priority to think about or be aware of like, what do you really need to do to take a step back and think about short-term goals, long-term goals? How do you, re-regulate your learning and problem-solving processes? So in the program, we talked about like some more practical strategies, which I think is really helpful and it's very individualized. So like, how do you prioritize? What should you prioritize? How do you prioritize yourself now versus prioritize yourself for the future? Establishing boundaries, advocating for yourself, work-life balance. So a lot more things that I think are also applicable regardless of your career stage. But then especially as early career faculty, you're kind of in that transition period a lot of time from like trainee and student into being more of the leadership mentorship role. And so it's also a shift in identity that I think we don't often have the space or awareness of that's happening. And so I think some of these programs are really helpful and important, and having the space to talk to other people going through similar processes at the same time, of listening to other people's experiences and what are they thinking of in terms of their identities and priorities. And I really appreciated that both Susie and Brian made it very individualized. So like having individual prompts that you talked and then talked about in small groups. So I think there's a lot of levels of components that didn't really feel just like a webinar you might attend where you're like a member in the audience and you listen to like, it's like didactic-y. This is more applied, which I really think is a lot of benefit for people to apply it to your own unique situation. So I think that's like something unique. We also, being from psychology, there's a lot of psychological components built into it, which I think I loved and enjoyed. What are your values? What's important to you? How do you make sure that you're like, your department or leadership might be aware? How do you match your values to what everybody else is working on? So I think those like psychological concepts also made it feel very applicable to things I'm very used to as from psychology. And then, kind of Brian and Susie both briefly mentioned it, but we did this like strengths-based focus, and we did this Gallup assessment of like understanding what your actual strengths are and how you work with other people's strengths. And it was almost like taking one of those like personality assessments like MBTI type of thing, but it's a very different way of thinking about it, which is very work career focused, less of like your general personality or general communication style or interaction style. This was very career focused, which I think is something unique that I haven't seen as much of like focusing on strengths, goals, values specifically in the work context and how do we apply it at RFU. So that was just a lot of talk. Is anything else, Susie?
No, but I always appreciate hearing what people get out of it, because you're right. We had 15 people in the program, and I'm sure other people got different things. So thank you for sharing that for sure. We did try to build the community part in and the tailored aspect because we feel you learn from each other and from your mentors. So getting back to what Erin was saying, we view mentoring as a really crucial part of these kinds of programs as well.
And cohorts are powerful. I mean, like the cohort effect is really meaningful at all levels of faculty development, right? Mm-hmm. That's I've had a number of people go through ELAM, which is mm-hmm. and the most powerful thing in there is the small group cohort that those women come out with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've had a few colleagues from here
Yep.
go through that.
Yeah.
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 Especially nice for networking, I think, because
Mhm.
at RFU, people are kind of doing different things in different colleges and departments, especially being like newer to RFU and not knowing as many people. That was like a nice experience to have that cohort experience.
And I will say that was the other thing is, when I first came, because, what, 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, the whole, this is very siloed here at RFU. So for me, the goal is to try to help build, some people are in the same building, like half the wing, but they're on different floors and they don't really know each other. So that was really interesting to me. So that's been something, trying to build that out. And I don't know, maybe I could switch, maybe we could ask Aubrey was in a different, actually participated in a couple of our different programs as a staff member. So I don't know if you want to share your experience about that.
Sure, I'd be happy to. We in SGPS benefited greatly when Dr. Calkins first arrived because we got to add her to our faculty, and she has been a wonderful resource for our faculty and our students. And one of my earliest engagements with the work of the Nexus for Faculty Success was in the Inclusive STEM teaching course that she offered to the entire university community, and particularly hosted learning community sessions with Dr. Eric Williams and Dr. Heather Kine-Keppel. And Dr. Calkins really invited me to participate as a person who wanted to learn more about ways we could improve the teaching that our students received. I interface with our students very directly as their academic support. But I hadn't had as much of a role in the actual coursework they participated in and hadn't challenged myself to think of someone who supports their education in that way until Dr. Calkins said, no, this is relevant to what you do. And you could, of course, contribute to a learning community like this. And I loved it. I mean, exactly what you're talking about, being able to be part of a cohort and hear how our faculty think about this training and have a better sense of not only the sort of mentorship we could provide to our students, but the sort of resources that our faculty were looking for as they pursued inclusive teaching in STEM, as they tried to make their coursework more accessible to students of all kinds. It was a wonderful challenge, and I've been able to continue engaging with those with a number of workshops on the scholarship of teaching and learning, which I first heard about from the Nexus of Faculty Success and have since, adored learning more with each workshop I'm able to participate in. And I have just been really delighted by how welcoming each session is, no matter what your level of expertise is or where you fit into the cogs that make the clock turn. So I've really enjoyed any active inclusive teaching sessions, and more than that, it's given me opportunities to work with Dr. Calkins in our actual coursework. One of the other wonderful things that she brought to SGPS was a class series called PD Hub, which is an extracurricular course that's developed around the career development specifically of PhD students. And we use that same training that you mentioned, Dr. Zhao, of the skills and values of our students, helping them to identify what it is they want to do with their PhD, when they earn it, what goals they want to have in the long term based on not only the values that they have, but the skills that they really shine in with the personality test that they go through. But that is really just more about finding the best ways for them to shine. So I think I have enormously benefited, not just in being better able to serve our students, but having a fuller understanding of the ways every part of the university works together and being able to provide better support to our faculty. So thank you very much for the opportunity, Dr. Calkins. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. I didn't mean it for that direction, but I appreciate it. I will say that the PD Hub course that we mentioned that so Dean DeMario and I implemented, we got training for it through, it's an NIH sponsored initiative, and we were able to apply for it, and we were selected as one of 13 sites to implement this course that Aubrey mentioned. But what was cool is I happen to have this partner, Brian, who is a certified coach in all in Gallup's strengths that Nancy mentioned, and he was able to actually run these amazing sessions. And then we borrowed a lot of what I learned from the PD Hub, and we put it into this Nexus Faculty Academy to leverage So they all benefited from this NIH initiative as well. But I don't know, Brian. It seemed like that was something. The leadership part it's been so great. Brian came to me as a learning designer primarily, and then I started learning. Brian has all these other amazing skills, and he really knows a lot of things about learning and teaching, but also about coaching and mentoring, which is really great. So I don't know, Brian, when you talk a little bit about the coaching and mentoring aspect of the roles that you've had with some of the Nexus work, or
Yeah, definitely. Obviously we just talked about the Nexus Faculty Academy that we've done there, but also doing one-on-one consultations and coaching faculty in the different ways that we can use technology when we're implementing learning design when it comes to using tools like Zoom, but many of the other virtual tools that we have. And then I also do different workshops throughout the year working and coaching faculty and staff of different ways that we can have students learn material. We have an upcoming workshop, Universal Design Learning, and talking about all those different ways that students can access basically the material and how faculty can make it more accessible to even more students too. And so one of the other Gallup and coaching dynamics that I use here at the university is yes, having that Gallup certified strengths assessment, using that, and then finding different ways that faculty can use those strengths, which are proven by decades of Gallup research of how to leverage that and work in a way where we're doing the things that we're best at and not trying to improve those things that we're not so great at and trying to make the good go to excellent. So that's just a little bit of a snapshot of the coaching and leadership work that I do here at the university.
That's great. I've got one question
sure.
outstanding here that I'm going to get to. So somebody asks, are there plans to initiate searches for the provost and other positions that are currently filled on an interim basis? So I've prioritized the EVPR and the Vice President for Institutional Advancement. We'll see where we are in time, skill, budget after we start those to decide a timeline for the provost search. I've talked to deans and a variety of other people about it. I'm happy to talk to anybody about what you think the search should be like or look like. But and then I know there are some interim positions in the provost's office and some other places like that. I would presume that those probably get searched for after there's we sort out what we're going to do in terms of a provost search. But that's the answer to that question. Questions are always helpful, including perhaps, will an interim EVP be named while the search is ongoing? An interim EVP will be announced next week.
Yeah.
Anyway, questions always make this fun, including about Nexus or opportunities. One of the things that I'm coming up on 60 days tomorrow, so I'm still learning a lot of stuff, right? And people have asked me about collaboration and how we facilitate collaboration. It's not full on a Nexus area, but it is one of the things that people keep asking me about. And so, what have we seen that's worked here or things that maybe we should be thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for others to chime in. I had an immediate thought, and then others too. I mean, to me, that's essential. It's the heart of learning anyway, is that we bring in expertise from several all the perspectives we can to look at a question or a problem or a challenge, and we bring those insights together. I think that's the heart of all of our good learning practice. And so for me, that's something that I tried to figure out, like, well, what are people already doing? Like in terms of my own work, like what are we doing? What are they already doing? I'm not trying to replace what they're doing, but how could we supplement it? Are they doing something that's innovative that we didn't know about? Can we? So that kind of collaboration. I do want to say something quickly about one of our recent Coulson Award winners. That was Janet Helminski and Karen Stevens and some other colleagues in PT
Can you
and
tell me
PA.
about Coulson
Oh
winner?
yeah, can I tell you about the Coulson? So Beth Coulson, who was a former Board of Trustee member and of course a faculty member in PT for many years and has all kinds of exalted positions. She donated very graciously an amount to the university and in honor of her father, who always helped her think outside the box, and he was an educator. And this Coulson Award, the Elizabeth Schaefer-Nick Coulson Innovation in Teaching and Learning Award. I want to get the longest title in the
Yeah.
world correct. Um, we've been offering it annually. This is our fourth year. And this is where faculty, and I just announced it, we put it in the Nexus News yesterday. It's been open. We have a few months before it's due. And here, faculty, we don't have a regular proposal process, by the way. They submit a letter of intent about an idea that's an innovative idea. It could be innovative to them, and it allows them to think, what can they do in and it is about education at RFU. And they letter of intent, and I and Brian and will give some feedback on this, and then they can. We want them to present. We have an idea-a-thon. So each year we have an online idea-a-thon where people present their ideas, they pitch it basically, but it gives them an opportunity to get some feedback on their idea from the community, from the whole RFU community, so that they can then take that feedback and revise it and I give them feedback too, the best possible proposal that they can, and then a great committee then actually reviews the proposals. I'm there, but I don't judge, and then they're selected. And so it's about bringing innovation in its many forms in learning and teaching to RFU. So one of the ones that won recently was Janet Hilminski, and she partnered with Karen Stevens. So they're in PT, and then they partnered with colleagues in PA, Christian Burgess, Patrick can't remember everybody's last name, so I'm sorry if I forgot somebody, Misty Fills. They partnered with them to do this amazing interprofessional activity between PT and PA, and it was 108 students from both fields got together, and they did this two-part activity around a vestibular something, and they then then they work together, and the students love this interprofessional activity. We're actually presenting at a conference on it. I helped them do the evaluation, but it was amazing. So the interprofessional present. So getting to your collaboration, that I thought was kind of an amazing collaborative aspect of them coming together to do this. And the students were thrilled. They thought it was a really great experience.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So one of the great challenges in health education, particularly I'm thinking about for actually almost everybody who has a clinical engagement, right, is, faculty support or training for people in the clinical world. It's sort of the great struggle. I came from a institution that was community based, so we didn't pay those people particularly, right? How this is a 60-day question, right? Like, help me think about where we are in terms of supporting faculty development, staff development at our clinical sites.
Yeah, I know that's been a big question. I mean, I have to say we do tend to focus more on when it's about the teaching, less in the clinical. My previous institution at Northwestern, I did do more clinical
Well,
support
they
with
were in
them.
your bailiwick, right? They were down the
Yeah.
hall. You knew who they
Yeah,
were.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's harder. It's
Yeah,
harder at
and
a
so
community-based school.
I did do, so that I know that there's ad hoc efforts, but I'm not sure. I think that definitely is an area of growth and opportunity there.
Okay, so we're going to try something here. Let's see if I can make this work. Where are you, Archie? So Archie raised her hand. Archie, did you have a
Hey.
question
I don't,
or a
Aaron, but
comment? Did you have a comment?
I do. I wanted to mention something that we have done in the medical school that might be helpful to other programs to think about. Because clinical faculty development can be pretty discipline specific. In addition to what Susie mentioned about development of educators, those are a pretty similar types of education that you need for that. So we have Dr. Subhashish Mishra, who is our Jamie Dean, part of whose portfolio is actually clinical faculty development. And the way that we approach it in the medical school is as we get out to the clinical sites, we ask them what their needs are, and we try to fulfill those needs. I'll give you an example, and I don't know if Dr. Vaidya is on this call today, but she's our Vice Dean for Faculty Affairs and Engagement. And she was asked by one of our clinical partners to develop a leadership program for the women physicians at this particular site. And that's exactly what she did. So sometimes, there are requests that we get that are very specific like that. At other times we get, the usual, I've been a doctor, but not taught students, or I've been a doctor, I've taught residents, but not students. How is that different? How do I give feedback? How do I assess, students' knowledge, that kind of thing. So some of it is around those things. We also strongly encourage career development type education. Many of our clinical faculty don't realize that they're eligible for promotion within our system. And I don't know if Dr. Maldonado is on the call. He's our executive chair for clinical sciences, but I think he has a list of like 400 faculty members, clinical faculty members that are eligible for promotion, and he's working his list. We realize we can't promote 400 people at one go, but a lot of these people were really stagnating, and that's not right. And it does really encourage those faculty members and others at those sites to become engaged in teaching because they see a value in their own career advancement. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Archie. And so that's actually related to a second, get my act together here. Oh, that's not okay. I hope I didn't just unload you, Archie. Apologize if I did. Pamela Chambers also has a similar question, sort of, or comment, that it would be helpful if there's a university-wide emphasis on developing knowledge, skills, and attitudes of clinical preceptors and comprehensive and constructive evaluation of residents when they're on clinical rotations, which is the same for students, right? And there is a sort of common set of rubrics you can learn about how to do evaluation, because there are a lot of similar missteps that people make, right, in doing especially skill-based evaluations. There are also common skills on teaching skills, right? And figuring out how to teach a skill, including, like the key thing, right, is to start at the end. What is the real world performance that you're looking for? And then building from there. So I don't know, those are pretty discrete sort of teaching and evaluation skills that I imagine shows up in the academy and programs like that. And again, Archie, I hope I didn't kick you out.
And I believe that, obviously a lot of the simulation work, it's simulation, but that's designed to promote education in terms of clinical practice, both for the students and for the faculty who are doing the teaching. I think that is one place for that. I don't have as much role with simulation here, but that is something that I know comes out.
Brian, it looked like you were going to say something.
No, I think the only thing I was going to add is I think in addition to what Dr. Calkins said, that's definitely an area of growth that we would love to expand into. We've touched on it a little bit within our Nexus Faculty Academy and talking about different ways that faculty can handle those situations, and additionally with preceptors and stuff like that. Just definitely an area that we can expand into.
And the other thing I would just like to add is, the Nexus was named as the HLC Quality Initiative, which is part of our accreditation process. It's always good. So one of the things we have to do is, we were going to do it anyway, but it's a pretty significant evaluation and, of our existing programs, but also making sure that the Nexus is continuously meeting needs of faculty as they evolve and emerge. And so we are constantly, when we talked about like trying new things all the time, and maybe it didn't work this time, we are constantly trying to we're very adaptable, but also like open, attentive to changes in trends and changes in thinking around what the need is as well. And, and I know like with Nancy, as mentioned earlier, we try to make sure people also have like skills that they can grow with, as well as things that help them be adaptable to changing environments too. So for ourselves and for our participants is how I think about it.
So Nancy, can you talk a little bit about like what you've seen either in education or in your research world as some of those skills or other opportunities that you
Yeah, I'm happy that I think there's been having a lot of thoughts as this conversation's been going on. I think your question earlier about how do we build more collaborations or opportunities for engaging with people across the university. I think in some way it is networking of like you don't know what you don't know and you don't know who you don't know. And so sometimes it does take like someone to raise a question or raise an idea, and that can spark new ideas for collaboration. And so being a part of the Nexus Faculty Academy was helpful, and I got to know like more early career faculty that were also doing different types of research, and learning what they were doing in terms of research helped spark new ideas for possibility of collaboration. So I've been talking with Dr. Holly Hunsberger about we're trying to do like translational work with nicotine pouches, and if she could look at it in mice and I could look at it in people, that could be really cool future aspect of something we could do together. And I mean, that was facilitated mostly just by being together as a cohort, as a program. So having those like conversations about what you do. I think with in support of like more teaching and education, um, I think of like what do we tell our students sometimes and helping them career development and collaborate and grow. So, what types of questions are they asking themselves of what do you want to do in the future? Who do you want to work with? What are areas you would like to grow into is like good questions even for like faculty and staff to think of for themselves as well. But sometimes we're so focused on like us training our students or helping our students grow that we might not think of those questions ourselves, to be honest, but they're just as applicable. In my class, we've also tried to implement some of the other components in applied skills, really, so I teach cognitive behavioral interventions, which is really focused on helping train clinical skills in our
Mhm.
clinical counseling and clinical
Yep.
psychology students. And so we build in role plays in the classroom
Mhm.
in this like three triangle way of not just having a paired simulation of just like a sample patient and the therapist or clinician, but also having a third student act as an observer, because sometimes you get a different experience seeing two other people have that interaction that you as the outside observer not in that interaction could get feedback on, but also then reflect on yourself of like I might have done that differently while not in that interaction. So I think there's like different levels of how do we apply what we see in the real world into the classroom to like engage the students in a different way of experiencing that exact same clinical experience, but more from like different levels, almost like in a way you might be a clinical supervisor and like watch up to students engage in an interaction and you as a supervisor have thoughts. So giving the students that experience, I think has also been an interesting way of trying to implement some of those like applied skills in a different manner.
So Aubrey, I met with the staff council earlier this week, as you know, and one of the things that I've heard multiple times is, staff seeking opportunities to be engaged and be supported, and one of the things that I've seen happen, particularly professional or educational organizations tend to have a place for staff, right? The coordinators and people like that, they recognize that staff are so important to the delivery of educational programs. Some particularly clinical, but other kinds of organizations, there's a whole world where, staff development is a key part of the success of an organization. Nexus is one of those places where, we're focusing on a particular set of needs that staff are so important. And you spoke to this a little bit, but maybe could you bridge some of these experiences and just talk a little bit about how you think maybe we should be thinking about staff and engaging staff in this kind of opportunity and work?
Absolutely. That's been one of the major initiatives for the Executive Staff Council that I am on this year, is wanting to provide more mentorship opportunities for staff that perhaps they hadn't even considered would be available to them, as was my experience in getting to learn more about scholarship of teaching and learning, getting to better understand the process of facilitating classes and even participate in doing so, and also opportunities to write and be mentored in scholarship that I had that came out of these experiences, these workshops. So we've actually had a chance to speak with Faculty Senate about creating more opportunities for staff to have mentorship, not only from other staff members, but also potentially from faculty members, so that there are opportunities for growth in whatever direction staff might be seeking, similarly to how we want students to do that sort of value sort activity and understand who they are, what they want, and what they want to pursue. We also want to make sure that those opportunities are available to staff who often have very bustling workloads that maybe don't give them the opportunities to reflect in those ways. So making sure that that possibility is there for staff who want to take advantage of mentorship in any direction. That's been one of our initiatives on Executive Staff Council.
I'd love to see faculty staff partnerships around mentoring as well, because I know when you mentioned this in our Senate Council meeting, the faculty there were like, we would be glad to mentor staff, and maybe we should be mentored by staff too. And it was like, yes, that would probably be awesome.
Well, one of the great things about mentorship is, right, it doesn't matter who the other person is, right? You can be mentored by a student if they have, particular skills and knowledge that you're looking to add. So Susie, we're getting close to the top of the hour here. What do you think is coming up next for Nexus? What do you?
We got all kinds of fun stuff. So we do have our Nexus news, but we have next week, Brian and Jane are hosting another AI and is it human agency? Dave Moser is doing that talk. It's going to be really interesting.
That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, the whole discussion series has been amazing. So different topics around AI. And then we have the Coulson Award information session. I mentioned that on the 21st. We also have a workshop that I'm going to be running on becoming a more critically reflective educator coming up on the 29th. And then we have our Wish Forum, as I mentioned, Dr. Jane with the imposter syndrome. That's going to be fantastic.
She was my student.
What? Oh, that's great.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I can at least say hello to her.
Oh, yeah. Well, hopefully, yeah. I mean, these sessions, the Wish seminars that Dr. Elliott and Christine Burgess have organized are amazing. And then we have other things coming up. But the other big one is we are going to do another university-wide forum, AI and scholarship. So we had done a big forum before, AI and teaching and learning, but now we wanted to do one on sort of the ethical issues around AI and scholarship. What are the implications? What are the, and also the excitement part.
That's a huge one, right?
What's the opportunity?
That's a fascinating one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that fits in with our scholarship values committee that we have the core values, and Charlotte Bear is runs that one. And so, but we're going to be doing this. That's part of that initiative, but this is going to be I think it's really important for people to think about AI and all the implications with scholarship.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, potential and harm. I mean, there's a continuum there.
Yeah, I actually have a family member who works for an organization called, now all of a sudden I've lost it, but it's it's Retraction Watch, and they focus on what happens. And there are essentially AI supported citation cartels and some of the predatory journals and things like that are particularly, there's a fascinating sort of sociological institutional problem that's facing us that's amazing. Mm-hmm. So Nancy and Aubrey, I want to ask you guys, given what you've done with Nexus and what you've learned, what do you think is coming up? Where do you plan to take what you've learned and things like that? And then we'll go to Brian for what he's excited about coming up. But Nancy, Aubrey, given what you've done, what are you excited about next for what you've learned from Nexus?
I guess I can go first.
Oh, yeah. I tried to vamp enough so you'd have some chance to come up with an answer on the way to it. So I'll just talk a little bit more, and then, it gives you just a little bit more space. Nancy?
I think that's a hard question because there's a lot of possibility. I think what's been great with Nexus and with Susie is Susie, I love that you're so good with feedback. Like, you really love feedback and ideas. So I think there's a lot of possibility. There's always new workshops coming out or new engagements. I didn't mention the like small group analysis that Susie had me do or did for me. Sorry, that was really good, really good experience of thinking, almost applying like what we see in research with qualitative and quantitative, and taking that into the classroom. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for that in the future of how we think about evaluating and doing, our classroom evals or course evals. It's not just straight numbers and questions, but having students hear each other's experiences too of a class is really interesting. So I'm very curious to see how like additional ways we can think creatively outside the box of what we're so used to doing. I think in the class and research, it's like the same thing over and over again, but like taking ideas from other aspects and applying it in a new way. So I'm just curious to see like what else will come down the pipeline in terms of workshop and opportunities for development and experiences.
It's actually one of the places where AI is interesting because it'll tell you who spent the most time talking and it doesn't care who you are, right? So it even if you're used to being observed occasionally and finding out you talk too much as a teacher or that particular students are dominating in particular ways, there are fascinating things that AI and things like that will do for us. Aubrey.
I think the thing that is most interesting and maybe even hopeful for me is the fact that we have brought so many people into this conversation earlier in their training. I keep thinking back to that NIH funded course, PD Hub. One of the things that we try to make sure is in place when we have a new cohort for it is that we have students at all levels participating and also postdocs and people further on in their training so that they can get insights from what people value at different stages or what priorities they've had in their training. And then we've also invited them to think about how we do teaching here and the impact that it has, and let them know that they are part of this conversation. We want their insights. So now we have students at the very earliest stages of their training, first years they haven't placed in their labs yet, thinking, oh, I'm part of this conversation. And so we'll get to hear their insights throughout the entire course of their time here. They'll have started that process already. And now that we're expanding this out to more and more faculty who are participating in Nexus events, they are also participating in that conversation, perhaps as soon as they arrive as new faculty, engaging in these programs. And now with the example of me and other staff members, knowing that they can be part of the conversation, I think it will only get more robust. I think we'll have newer insights, newer initiatives, maybe newer ideas and applicants for the Coulson Award. And I think it will just have ramifications for every level of the university, the more people we can bring into the conversation earlier in their training.
Great. Brian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did want to say for our AI discussion series, we did reschedule that date to Wednesday, January 21st. So we weren't conflicting with Unity Fest, so people should go to that next week. And then Dave Moser will be joining our AI discussion series Wednesday, January 21st at noon. So you can watch your email for that if you want to attend. And then again, another workshop we're looking forward to is the UDL workshop, and we'll be partnering with Mariana Gibbs from the Division of Student Success and Wellness. And so we're just really excited about that.
Great. So yeah, next week is Unity Fest. It's also, we're coming up on MLK Junior weekend. Town Hall next week will be about MLK Junior. And so that's what our panel will be focusing on. I want to thank you all for being with us today. Thank you, Susie, Nancy, Brian, Aubrey. Thanks for being with us today. Thanks to all of you for joining us on the Town Hall. Thank you for all you do to support our faculty, our staff, and our students. It is the work of people like you that make the university such a special place to be. It is Friday. I hope you get to have a weekend. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.